Hello my PC students. I've already opened up a document. This document is called XX Buchanan and I've saved it in my folder. And also I've gone to view and zoom and I put it up to 140. And I've typed in some text here just to save me time in this video. Alright, so the first question says, use the COUNTIF function to count the number of orders placed by the salesperson Buchanan. Alright, so I put in here, this will count the number of entries for Buchanan so that it just will tell you, if you weren't sure what it was. Alright, so we want to say equals COUNTIF. Open your parentheses, and it says, what range do you want to evaluate? Well, we need to evaluate where the names are, right? Comma, A2 to A10. And now, what's your criteria? Buchanan. And remember, you can click in any cell that has Buchanan. Whichever one you choose is fine. And press enter, and you've got 5 entries. And if you count 3, 4, 5, you can see that. Okay, then it says, use the COUNTIF function to count the number of orders. To count the number of orders that are over 20,000. Alright, so equals COUNTIF. Open your parentheses, and again, what's our range to evaluate? We're counting values, so I have to evaluate B2 to B10. Comma, what's my criteria? All values that are more than 20,000. And it didn't say equal, it said more than. So we want to put in quote, more than 20,000, and remember, no $sign, no commas, quotation marks, and now close your parentheses. And how many did we find? Only one. Because, does 20,000 count? No, because we said more than. But if we pressed F2 to edit and put in equals, more than or equals to 20,000, how many would you get then? 2. So do you see how important that one crucial part is? More than or equal to. Alright, so it said more than, it didn't say equal, so I'm going to take out the equals and put it back to the way it should have been. Alright? Okay, save your work. Now, this time, use the SUMIF function to calculate the total amount invoiced to the salesperson Buchanan. Alright, so now here, we want to, I said this will add up the sales for Buchanan. Okay, so we want to say sum equals SUMIF. Okay, now what range do we want to evaluate? The range to evaluate are the names because we have to find Buchanan. So A2 to A10, comma. What's the criteria? I'll click in a different cell just so you can see, but I still chose Buchanan. Comma, and what is the sum range? Here are the sums. So therefore, it's going to add up all the ones that belong to Buchanan. All right, 49,000. How do we get that? Well, Buchanan had 15 and 9 is 24. 15 and 5 is 20, so that's 44 and 5, 49,000. All right, so now this time it asks us to SUMIF the total amount of invoices that are more than or equal to. More than or equal to. So equals SUMIF. Open your parentheses. What range are we going to evaluate? This is values only, so B2 to B10. Comma, what's our criteria? Quote, more than equal to 15,000. Quotation marks. Okay, so it has to be more than or equal to 15,000, comma, and now what's my sum range? Exactly the same as B2 to B10 is your evaluation range, but that's just fine. Press enter, and you got 72,500. All right, so all the ones that were more than or equal to 15,000. So we got 15,000, and I see 15,000 is 30,000. And 20 is 50,000, and 22.5, 72.5. So yes, you've done things correctly. All right, let's save it. The next part says, use the if function to insert the percent of bonus. Assume that your company determines sales bonuses on a sliding scale. Either you get a 10% or a 15% bonus based on the invoice amount. And note that it says all sales less than $10,000 get 10%. Okay, so that tells you exactly what you want to hear. So equals if. Your condition is that if your sales are less than, make sure you got less than 10,000. Okay, if they're less than 10,000, you get 10%. Absolute. Otherwise, you get the other rate, 15%. Absolute. Close your parentheses, press enter, and the first person got 15%, which is right because it's more than $10,000. Okay, so there's all our percentages as it asked us for. Now I'm going to ask you for one more thing. I'm going to say, what if I asked you to find the amount of bonus? I want to know how much bonus they got. So equals if, open your parentheses, still the same thing. Are your sales less than $10,000? And it was not equal. It was less than. All right, comma. Then what amount are you going to get? You're going to get 10%, absolute, right, times your sales. Otherwise, you will get 15%, absolute, times your sales. Close your parentheses, press enter. And did you get 2250? And you did. Okay, and grab your fill handle and drag down. So you can see your 10%, you can see your 15%. Now we need a dollar sign here, so paint that over, pick up this one, and paint these down to match. Okay, that's good. Save your work. Now you're going to do something different. Okay, this time you're going to use a sum-ifs formula. Okay, we're going to use a sum-ifs formula. Now I'm just deciding where to put this to make it easier for you to see. I think I'm going to go here. Okay, I'm going to go sum-ifs. Okay, and then I'll go here. And I'll put in equals sum-ifs. Now note this is an S, sum-ifs. And this one operates different. Note that your sum range comes first. Do you see that? Okay, so it asks me to sum the invoice amounts for Buchanan sales that were greater than 10,000. All right, so I have to sum the invoice amounts. So my sum range is from B2 to B10, comma. Now it says, what is criteria range 1? Okay, the criteria range 1, okay, is the name of the salesperson. So there's criteria range 1, A2 to A10, comma. What's my criteria? My criteria is Buchanan. So that's criteria number 1, comma. Now, criteria number 2, the criteria range, is I have to select the invoice amounts, comma. And the criteria is, quote, and it said that the sales were greater than 10,000. Didn't say equal to, it said greater than. So greater than 10,000. All right, quotation marks. Everybody's got that? Quotation marks. Oh, I put in more than. And I got to say, didn't it say, let me check. Well, greater than, I was right. Okay, hold on. Greater than 10,000. All right, close your parentheses and press enter. And you got 30,000, okay? So we want all of Buchanan's sales. So we had 15 here, 9 doesn't count, 5 doesn't count, 15 counts. So 15 and 15, $30,000. So very easily you were able to do that. Okay, so now the next one says use a sum-ifs formula. Okay, so again, we're going to do another sum-ifs. And note that I'm saying ifs, all right? Because you get more than one criteria. So I'm going to put in equals sum-ifs, IFS. Open up your parentheses, okay? Now, calculate the total gift amounts for Buchanan that are more than or equal to 400. The gift amounts for Buchanan. So what's my sum range? My sum range are the gifts, because that's what it said. You're going to sum the gifts, right? comma. Criteria range 1 has to be that it is Buchanan. So I have to evaluate A2 to A10, comma, and my criteria 1 is Buchanan, comma, and then it says what is criteria range 2. Okay, criteria range 2 are the gifts. Okay, so C2 down to C10, comma, and what's my criteria 2 is that it's quote, and they are more than, and it said equal to, so equal to 400, quotation marks. Okay, so more than or equal to 400. Now, when we have these ranges here, we can have up to 7. Like you had in your if statement, you can have up to 7. We've only used 2, but that's fine. That's all we need. So it said, what was the sum of all the gifts that were more than or equal to 400? Well, Buchanan had a 400 here. That would have been included. And he had, okay, 2,000 there. Or did I add that wrong? Yeah, 21 plus 9 would have been 21 plus 9 would have been 3,000 plus your 400, 3,400. That's exactly what he got in gifts. All right. And now there's one more that says we want to use a count ifs formula. Now, just before we go there, oh, I've only got 2 minutes. Okay, so here, remember when you do a sum ifs? Actually, no, I'm going to do it this way and show you. If I put in equals sum if, note that the sum range comes at the very end. Your criteria range comes first and then your criteria. All right, but if you put in equals sum ifs, note that the sum range comes first because you can have up to 7 criteria. So always pay attention to read that formula. All right, I've got time to do one more, equals count if. So by count ifs, and I want to put in equals count ifs. Okay, open my parentheses. All right, so it says what is criteria range 1? All right, it says that you want to calculate the number of gift amounts for Buchanan that are more than or equal to 400. Count. So criteria range 1 is Buchanan. All right, A2 to A10. My criteria is Buchanan, comma. My criteria range 2 are gifts. So it's C2 to C10, comma, and it said more than or equal to 400. So quote, more than equal 400, quote. That's my 2 criteria. I don't sum anything. All we're doing is counting. So close your parentheses, press enter. And did you get 4 entries? And if we have 1 here, more than or equal to 400, 2, 3, 4. So you got it right. Okay, so I'm going to take my paintbrush here and format those 2, and I don't need to touch the rest. All right, go Control S to save, and that's how you should have done that question. All right, we'll stop there.